We are now live on the first, what I'm calling the 0 episode of the Call to Acting live show. And today with me is Jason Edwards. So please welcome him to the show. And here he is on screen for us, the man of the Jason Edwards live show. I don't know what else to say. You're I think when you asked me what I want to do this show about, I said, looking at even your credits, you went from somewhere in 2015 not having an agent to the beginning of 2017 being in 3 TV shows. So that's Sun Records, and I cannot think of the other 2 off the top of my head. I should have better notes, but you're here.
What kind of research is this? What kind of
I know,
show?
right?
It's only 3. No, I'm kidding. The other 3 so far that I've worked on is NCIS New Orleans and recently Queen Sugar, which will be out, I believe, in June.
Awesome. So, let's just jump right in with me asking you some questions.
Okay.
Well, actually, to establish more of who you are for people. So, you've started the Jason Edwards show, and you're interviewing. Currently, it's mainly other actors, some writers, directors, some internet stars, but everybody kind of in the entertainment realm, some casting directors and such. Is there anything you want people to know about that show?
Yeah, I just wanted to, number one, it's something creative to just keep me sane in between auditions because I like that. But also I have kind of a radio background. I did some radio in Los Angeles for real estate. And so I just kind of transitioned that over to what I'm really passionate about is just the entertainment industry and all the inner workings of how that goes. So it's just exciting to bring those people in, hear their stories. And I've gotten a lot of great feedback. So it's encouraged me to keep going and expanding it, kind of like what you were planning to do with this show.
Yeah. Well, Jason, for those of you who don't know, Jason is the one that pushed me to get this show off the ground and to get it started. And I am excited about that. I'm going to take a quick second. I'm actually going to share the show on my personal Facebook page, try to get it out there to some other people. If it will let me, it's going to do one of those weird things where it's really trying to get me to share it on another page. Share on my timeline. There we go. So, Jason, you ended up having to move back to New Orleans or Louisiana, and then moving to New Orleans. And was that early 2015 or late 2014? Tell us about that.
I think it was probably late 2014 that I moved back, but I was still kind of lost. I mean, I guess to take a step back, I moved out to Los Angeles to pursue acting probably, well, it's been multiple times, but originally when I was 17 and then once back in 2005-ish to right after college. And just kind of lost my way, got into real estate, which I had a passion for, but it was something that I was looking to just do temporarily, and then woke up 8 years later wondering what happened and kind of losing my confidence in acting for sure. I had done a lot of theater in high school and when I was a kid, but kind of lost my way and didn't really have the confidence anymore. And then came back to Louisiana, started doing real estate again, just kind of felt lost and got into a play at a community theater that I had done several productions with when I was a kid, and just fell back in love with it and started kind of drifting over to New Orleans to do background work and just kind of get into the film industry, and loved it. I mean, I was passing up big real estate deals and appointments just to come over and make, under $100 a day doing background, just because I wanted to be on a set and be in that atmosphere. Then something interesting happened, maybe mid 2005, early 2005 or 6. I guess it was, maybe mid 2005. I just decided, you know what? This is what I want to do. I don't care if I'm broke. I'm just going to be happy. And I just started calling myself an actor. When people ask what I do, I say I'm an actor. Obviously, the follow-up question is, well, what have I seen you in? But I didn't have anything at the time, but I just committed. I said, I'm going all in. And when I mean all in, I mean all in. I sold everything that wouldn't fit in my car and just packed up and moved to New Orleans and just said, this is what I'm doing. And I got into multiple classes and everything just to really be all in. And ever since then, I mean, I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm seeing some progress and I'm thankful for it.
Awesome. Well, so you said you started to see some progress, And when do you feel like things changed for you from doing a play to being background in some movies? What was kind of a progression to where you are now in early 2017, and 2 TV show spots have already come out and another one's going to be coming out, like you say, probably June or July.
Yeah, really the shift was getting an agent, being fortunate enough to be with
Hmm.
Angie at Action Talent, and just her helping me get legitimate auditions, and then I had to obviously follow up and deliver with the work, which when I would talk about going to classes, it wasn't like I kind of went to a class every now and then when I could. I was literally going 4 or 5 nights a week. There was multiple really talented teachers in the South. So I was taking classes from all different sources and just kind of diving in. And then in my free time, when I didn't have class, I was reading scripts and practicing monologues that I'd probably never show to anyone, just to keep going. So that was just really, I kind of, when I said I went all in, I just really did. And that's when I started seeing the shift.
Okay. So representation was a big part of what changed
Absolutely.
things for you, is what I heard there. Nice, nice. So along those lines, when do you think an actor should seek representation? Should they start? Because I know some people have told me that they feel like somebody should take a certain number of hours, or maybe have a certain number of plays under their belt before they ever start even auditioning for professional gigs. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts with that?
Yeah. I mean, really, I don't know that there's a time that you should or shouldn't seek representation, in my opinion. It's
Hmm.
just that you have to be actively working. Like, just because I was fortunate enough to get an agent doesn't mean that I then turned the reins over and said, now bring me work. I,
Right.
I was doing everything I could on my own. And I felt like that was just a bonus that she was able to get me. And then there was kind of a tipping point where that kind of shifted, where she got me more auditions than I was finding on my own.
Hmm.
But I had to deliver the work on my own. So I guess the question is, or the answer is, you could do it from day one, but also be actively trying to get your own work at the same time.
Okay. So something that you're known for, at least I feel like you're known for, is branding. So you've got your Jason Edwards live show out there, and in the same way, like you say, you were trying to find auditions on your own, but with an agent that started to kind of snowball in a way, to where with your agent you were booking more gigs, or at least getting more auditions.
Right.
What's a tip that you would give to everybody as far as starting to brand yourself as an actor? I mean, you said your first step was to just start calling yourself an actor, even
Mhm.
before you had kind of big roles. So, what do you think people should do to brand themselves and facilitate that towards booking?
Yeah, I mean, you have to see yourself as a business. You are a product. It's sad, but it's you are a product that you're trying to sell and get people to buy into.
Hmm.
So I learned a lot from one of my mentors in California, Tony Patillo, who was a broker in real estate that I worked with, and we had a radio show together. But she was always very particular about everything having branding, and things that I was like, oh, that's a little excessive. But then I learned that people started to put her on a little bit higher level just because of the branding that she put the time to put into. So
I
I've
see.
always been that way since then, with logos and designs and things like that. I just feel
Hmm.
like we need to represent ourselves in that way as a product that people recognize.
Right. Awesome. So, as an actor, we there's somewhat 2 schools of thought, or I guess there's multiple schools of thought, but one of those out there is finding your type and then only going after that. And we've talked about that a little bit, and I think I personally, have my own struggles with that from time to time, where tons of different people will see me as a somewhat tall and thin guy as one type, and then it'll get pulled in another direction. But what are your thoughts about how to go about figuring out your type, or if somebody should even do that, or how that helps or hurts with branding?
Well, I can't say, even though I'm happy about the year that I had, I can't say that I'm an expert in that realm. Obviously, I could, I guess, be in a certain category. Like, I was fortunate enough to have Gary Grubbs on my show, and he talked about how he always played like the Southern lawyer, or the
Hmm.
educated Southerner, businessman, oil man, stuff like that. But he has that great accent and things that can can relate to that. My first three roles that I've had was redneck in Memphis. I
Right.
had a banker and a guy that was driving a armored truck. So I don't know that I'm in a category quite yet, and I feel like I have a pretty wide range. But I think
Right.
with the branding stuff too, you can go to two different paths. You can kind of always be that Southern lawyer guy or whatever your brand is, or you can try to be a little wider. And I don't know an answer if what's going to work out for me. I like
I
to be
understand.
wider, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
All right. Well, what so some of your resume, looking back at your IMDb, are projects that you've worked on as crew or that you've helped produce,
Yeah.
and then maybe had a bit part in here or there. Do you have anything in the works right now?
Well, I just finished up a project called Panda, which an amazing director, Trent Dickens, out of Los Angeles. He's from Biloxi, but lives in Los Angeles now. We've been working on that for quite a while. We just did reshoots to kind of fill in some of the parts that he felt he was missing. But I think just to talk about a point that you mentioned, working crew and things like that, is when I keep going back to this theme of going all in, but literally I was trying to figure out every angle that I could to get on a set, whether that be working as a PA for free on student films and short films, or whether that be producing my own and kind of helping with some friends, creating my own work, just wiggling any angle to be on a set and learning a lot in the process. Because as actors, I feel like we can't wait on someone to choose us. I'm thankful for all the auditions that I get, and I love the agency that I have, and Angie's been incredible, but she has a lot of other people to worry about as well. So I have to figure out a way to create my own work. And if I can learn the production side and eventually get investors involved to create my own projects, then that's just incredible.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I just threw a quote up there that I liked as you said it. So don't wait for someone to choose you. And I think that's a big part of what I want to do with Call to Acting, is really encourage other people and show them different ways that they can keep the ball rolling with their own career. Because as actors, we have a lot of downtime. I'm definitely asked by my own family members a lot of the time, what do you do all day? Is definitely something that comes up. And some of it is ideas like stuff like this. And some of it is meetings with people and talking about projects or talking about building a studio somewhere. And
okay. So,
yeah, go ahead.
But to tag on to that, like I have a lot of friends, and I'm guilty of it too, of talking about a lot of things, but not actually doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
We're all talking about, we've been talking about doing skits together for months, and just, we don't execute on certain things. So we got to stop the talking about it and start being about it and start doing it.
Right.
So that's why I'm talking about getting on sets and things like that. And then also with classes too, like we have some amazing instructors down here that have worked on hundreds of films. And I know that classes can be seen as expensive, but I have a lot of people that come and ask me about, starting and getting into acting. And then I recommend some classes and they don't go, which is okay, but then don't complain that you're not getting where you want to be.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I see them say, I can't afford class, but then on the weekend they're going to see the new Star Wars movie or whatever it is. Obviously we got to have a personal life, but if this is what you say you truly want, then you gotta sacrifice those things if funds are limited. And trust me, I'm not speaking from a high horse. I've been the lowest of low, eating ramen noodles, trying to figure it out, all the way up to, doing really well. And it's always a roller coaster. So I'm not talking down. I'm just saying, this is what you want. You gotta make it happen.
I got you, man. I got you. So I'm feeling a little fire there. Is there a specific project that you want to be working on right now that hasn't gotten off the ground, or is it just too much talk about skits online? What is it?
Yeah, just it's mostly me talking to myself.
I understand.
Although I feel like I'm doing a lot. There's a lot. Like I have a big board of ideas that I've been talking with friends about for months, you included. That we just haven't executed. So that's just trying to light a fire under my own butt, I guess, as well. But just if I'm on your show and this is mostly actors watching, I like to. And a lot of people have been, now that I've launched my show, come to me and kind of ask my opinion about things. So I figured this was a good platform to kind of rant a little.
Nice. No, I'm fine with it. Go right ahead. I definitely have had some rants already on the Call to Acting page, and I know I need it from time to time.
We all do. We go through roller coasters of emotions. I'm feeling great today. Yesterday, I found out a couple of projects I was really looking forward to that I auditioned for I didn't get. So it's a roller coaster. We just have to keep.
Do you ever have good days after you find out for sure that you didn't book something though? Do you know what I'm saying? Like instead of it, because people always expect you find out, oh, you didn't book a part, and they're like, I'm so sorry. And I think sometimes I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'm glad. I'm like just moving on to the next
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I usually give myself like a half a day pity party. You know,
Hmm.
like last night I was kind of sulky or whatever, like kind of down. But then today I woke up feeling really good, and so yeah, you just start fresh again, and there's always new auditions, new projects. But that's why I say you got to have some things that you're working on in between, so that
Right.
when those things aren't happening for you, that you still have something you're working on.
I gotcha. So we talked some about your show as a
Mhm.
project that you're working on now with a consistent schedule, and probably months out, you're starting to try to schedule guests and build that up.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any advice for people with that? With if they should start a show themselves, or what you can do with a show, or on any of it?
Yeah, I think just um, how do I want to say this? I think just the reason I created my show is number one, kind of like I said, something to keep me sane in between auditions. But number two, it's a great networking opportunity because there's people that want that information out there. And when you elevate it to having a show versus just uh, asking somebody to sit down for an hour and pick their brain, it changes the
Mhm.
dynamic of that. You know, you're helping them get their message out, but at the same time, you're on a similar playing field with them for at least that moment. You know, so I find that it's great networking. I learned that when I had the real estate show, because I expected to be on the radio and people would call in and want me to list their house or whatever it was, and that happened. But what was more powerful is the big bankruptcy attorney in town or the big title company in town or whatever would come on my show, and then after the show we'd have a stronger connection. We'd maybe even have
Mhm.
lunch together or whatever, and that
Right.
those relationships were priceless. But I
Awesome.
think anybody, comedians or anybody, like if you have the gift of gab, especially in the entertainment industry,
Hmm.
um, and people have stories that just similar to what we have that that audience would like to hear about. So putting them on a platform, interviewing them, will, I think anybody could do that.
Cool, cool. Are you working on anything to that you want to talk about with promoting that, or
Yeah,
uh,
I mean, right now what I've been doing is just having the show on Facebook Live. You can see that at facebook.com/Jason Edwards TV.
mhm,
And so I do it live. And then what I've been doing is taking the audio and pulling that out. And then very soon, probably in the next week or so, that'll all be on iTunes and Stitcher. So I'll have multiple different formats that people can listen to it. But I just love the Facebook Live platform right now just because it's new and exciting. I mean, video has been around for quite a while as far as
right?
a medium, but the live component is exciting. There's things that can go wrong, and it's just keeps me a little more on my toes.
Awesome. So moving back towards acting, if somebody were going to be starting to act today, or they've been acting for maybe even a couple of years, but all that they've done is local theater stuff, and not to downplay that because you can get good experience, but they want to step into film, television, commercials, what would you tell them to do first?
Um, Great question. I mean, that was really my background. I was only theater. I only started doing film and television. I mean, the first time I'd ever been on camera as an actor was maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So it hasn't been that long. Um, I think just get a camera and start filming yourself doing things, you know, auditions and things. Even if you don't have an audition yourself, there's thousands of mock auditions that you can pull up
Hmm.
on screen, because that was like really eye-opening to me to see how big I was as a theater actor versus how that portrayed on camera was a long learning curve. And then there's teachers that can kind of refine the points after you can bring it down to something that you think is believable and you're staying inside that frame. Then after that, it's kind of fine tuning that. And I still, you know, learn every day. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I think that's the beginning works of that. And then just get out with your friends and start filming stuff like little skits and things for YouTube or Instagram, and it kind of learns you helps you learn angles and how to carry things out until the cut and all that stuff. So
Awesome. Okay. If somebody was getting started, but they weren't in a bigger city where they can go to classes, and they were going to pick up a book, do you have a specific book that you would suggest to them, or a specific learning tool, maybe online, or that you think like if this is the only thing you read or watch, it would be amazing information?
Yeah, great question. There's been a lot of books recommended on my show, Tim Phillips' book being one of the most recommended, which I'm going to forget the name. Maybe you know it.
It has audition in the title. I know
Audition
that.
for Your Career, Not the Job, or something like that. I'll put a link later on, but that's been recommended multiple times. Personally, I like the audio format more, so I listen to a lot of podcasts and things like Off Camera with Sam Jones, and watch a lot of YouTube videos. So I don't have a one specific resource. I don't really read a lot of books, even though I've just been talking about how you should read scripts and things. I read scripts, but I don't really read a lot of books. I listen to audiobooks. So.
Yeah, the title of his book is Audition for Your Career, Not the Job, Mastering the On-Camera Audition by Tim Phillips.
Yeah.
So that's a good book. I should pick it up myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good, but I don't think, I mean, you can read every book that's in the library and at these bookstores, but once you apply it, then you'll actually start seeing it. So don't just read the book and think you got it. I think I've learned way more just practicing and figuring it out than reading a book. Maybe do it and then go back and read the book and figure out what you can do to tweak it would be my best advice.
Okay. So I teach a weekly class and here in the Jackson area. And one of the things that it seems that a lot of students that I'm dealing with video auditions, they question, how do you as an actor either one, really quickly learn the lines, or because sometimes I do the same thing that casting directors do to us. I don't give it to them a week ahead of time. I'll send it out a day or two before at most. And it seems to be a steep learning curve for a lot of people, though. It doesn't feel good to have that thrust upon you. And some of them had different expectations of what it meant to be in a class, from what I can tell. Do you have any advice for people, though, like when you first get a script, are there things that you do, your method, to learn and deliver the best audition possible?
Yeah, my method is, I believe, different than yours. I know that you've taught me some ways that you probably teach in your class, and we can talk about that in a second. But my way, just like I guess with the audio books and podcasts, I listen to my lines via audio. So I'll record them.
Okay.
I use an app called Rehearsal, the Rehearsal app. I think it's rehearsal.pro. It's like $20, and there's probably others out there. But I record the lines, myself saying the lines, and then I'll listen to that as I'm driving around. I do a lot of driving because I take classes sometimes hours away. So I'll learn the lines in between. And I learn fastest that way. Some people like to write them out. I see that. Some people do your method, kind of the, stack building from the bottom. Is that what you call?
Building from the bottom is what I teach to people. So with that method, you have the very last line of the script, and it doesn't matter which character's line it is, but that person says that line, and then you come back in, and you count that as basically a read through the whole script. And then your second read through is the last 2 lines, and your third read through is the last 3 lines, and your fourth is the last 4 lines, until you get all the way to the top of the scene. And that way, every single time, you're always finishing the scene. And I also I really push people towards proper reading technique, where you're not looking down at the page, you're looking at the other actor, and you're delivering the lines. You can read it to yourself, but you deliver and perform to the other actor. So even if that's one word at a time in kind of a Harold Guskin take it off the page kind of technique, or if it's just more from like a theatrical perspective and holding it maybe here so I can see you and my script, and I glance back and forth every few words. But I really want that to maintain that connection. But yeah, building it from the bottom. And I definitely know that when actors take the time to learn that technique, that they've usually by the end of that full read, they're like, oh, I know a bunch of the lines now, and I don't have to really think about it, and I can work more on my characterization. Yeah,
one advice I'll give for your method and the one that I talked about with saying it or hearing it through audio is, I've been tripped up a few times by getting fixed on a way that I was going to say a certain thing.
Right.
And then the casting director would tell me, just run those things together, like I would think it would be a separate thought, and they tell me just run it together. And then I got a little thrown off. So just trying, if there's any way you personally, and every person's going to learn it differently, but just try to learn it loosely so that you're not fixed into a way you're going to say something.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Last night we had an issue in the class where I suggested to some of the actors to walk around while they said their line. And when they got into the audition moment, they said they were kind of thrown off by now
Staying still.
all of a sudden, yeah, all of a sudden being stationary. And
Yeah, I walk around a lot with saying in my lines, like when I'm walking to the coffee shop or something, and I know people, I'm sure they think we're nuts because we're just like doing all these hand gestures and talking, and nobody's around us.
yep. Well, I'd rather be a little nuts than never book a part, I guess.
Right.
So let's talk about some of the horizon of your career and where you want things to go. If you could play any character, what would it be?
Hmm. That's a tough one. I really like, because I feel like I'm a pretty nice guy. I really like the like just crazy mobster, badass kind of guys.
Okay.
So I'd love to play those darker characters just because it's like the total opposite of me.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if there's a specific type of role, but just like the darker, mean, evil characters I like to play.
All right. Um, Second question in this kind of more like how you hope for your career to go. Um, so you're an actor. Do you see yourself? Do you want to do any other things long term, or do you want it to be full time acting?
I think, I mean, if I had my big vision, it would just be that I was acting as often as
Okay.
I wanted to, getting offered parts and things like that. Obviously, there's a long road ahead to work towards that. But
Hmm.
in the meantime, I see myself in the entertainment industry in some capacity, whether that be producing behind the scenes at the times that I'm not acting. So probably like if I was a hybrid, it would be producing slash acting. And then, um, yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Do you? So we've talked about some skits and shorts and stuff like that. Are you working on writing any project right now, whether that's kind of a skit or a feature or anything?
Yeah, no features or shorts or anything in the works. Just kind of how I've been practicing is writing little 2 and 3 page skits for
Okay.
or scenes for classes that I go to, and so I'll prepare those and see if they work in class and kind of go and tweak them and things like that. And I've learned what I think is funny sometimes other people don't, and what I never thought was funny people think is hilarious. So that's interesting to see an audience actually see something that I've written, which has been cool in a live component because that's a class format versus filming it and then putting it online and getting people to comment that way. That's kind of it right now. I really just kind of want to expand my brand with doing Instagram video skits and things like that and YouTube skits. And that's just kind of more of a creative outlet than anything. I'm not obviously
Okay.
looking to win an Oscar from that, but
Okay. Well, you could win a Streamy, right?
yeah.
Like, okay. So, talking about the writing, do you see yourself directing more ever in the future? I mean, I know you said really like if you could act pretty
Yeah.
much, we all would love to be at that point where, you know, scripts are just offered to us, and then the Woody Harrelson in Zombieland situation happens. What was that? The story that I've heard was his manager handed him 5 scripts, and Zombieland was at the bottom as the script they thought he would never read out of the 5, and he picked it to act in. Like that's what I'd like for my career to be.
Yeah.
Like I just here's 5 scripts for this week. Pick which 3 you have time to act in the next 2 months.
Right. And it really can be that way. As far as directing, though, to answer your question, I mean, I just worked with, like I said, an amazing director, Trent Dickens, and
Hmm.
I saw the work that he put in, and I just kind of more of a PA assistant, kind of doing a lot of different things, but just the vision that he had to have to shot for shot know what he was looking for. I
Right.
don't know if I have it yet. I have a long way to go for that, so I can't say that I see myself directing anytime soon. I would never say never, um, but not anytime soon.
Okay. Um, so let's see. We talked. Oh, are you taking any acting classes right now?
Yeah, I've taken from a lot of the great teachers down here in the South, Gary Grubbs being one of them, and then Jim Gleason and James Dumont do more of a audition style class. So I've
Hmm.
taken both of their classes and plan to go back.
Okay.
Let's see, Jeremy London out in the Mississippi area, I've taken several classes from. Actually, was one of the producers on a film that he did, Monsters Anonymous, that he directed and co-wrote.
Is that
So
available online to jump in? Is that available online
yeah, I
yet?
think it's watchthemonsters.com, and that will go straight to the Facebook page where it's streaming. So that was a lot of fun. And let's see, I think I feel like I'm leaving somebody. Oh, I took classes with Jerry Katz, who taught the Chubbuck method from Ivana Chubbuck in Los Angeles. And that was a big learning experience on how to really craft a character, and so that was great. And then Lance Nichols I had on my show recently, so I hope to take classes from him pretty soon too, because I know he's just an awesome guy. I've worked with him on set as a crew member, and he was the lead. Never taken classes, so I look forward to doing that.
Okay, awesome.
I think one advice I'll give, and Lance mentioned it on my show, was just really doing the research in the person that you're studying with, and making sure if it is an actor and that's what you're looking to be, that they're working actively too, or at least have had a substantial career in the field that you're trying to get into.
Yeah.
Now there are some teachers that only teach in their, as Lance said, top of their game, like Tim Phillips, for example. But they've specialized and they've taught a lot of people that have gone on to do amazing things and had successes. So just make sure you do your research, and it's not just somebody who's done a couple projects and then they're now teaching you how to do it.
Yeah. Okay. That's good advice. Yeah. I think the way Tim Ferriss says is he doesn't like to read how-to books that are how somebody would have done it or somebody's thoughts on interpreting other people's information. He always wants to find somebody that says, this is how I did whatever the task is. So in the same way, finding somebody who is acting and then also has some credits under their belt.
Right.
So on your show, let's talk about your show real quick. Well, not real quick, loop back to it, I guess. But if you could, you have told people if they're trying to do a show like this, that they should create a wish list. Can you tell us one or two people that are just way out there, you think probably never going to get them on my show, but I'd really love to have them on the show?
Yeah, well, my studio is in a building that Seth Rogen comes in from time to time. He has a project here, so I've seen him in the hall a few times and just never had the guts to ask him, but I just think that would be really cool, probably unlikely. Wow. But also just in general in New Orleans, there's so many fine actors from LA that are flying in to be leads in the TV shows and movies that we have going on here. So I have kind of a running list of people as I see they're coming to town. I'd love to have them. I can't think of a specific name off the top of my head, but so far I've had pretty good success with the people I really look up to in our local community, reaching out to them, asking them to come on, and them being very nice enough to come on. So, but it's still a running list. But to get back to your point of just having a big vision of who you want. I mean, I see myself as we're all just people, right? I mean, some people have made other decisions and they've gotten further along in their career, but at the end of the day, we're people. Some people are jerks. Some people are really nice, regardless of where they are in their career. So I don't feel like anyone is out of reach. It's just, can I provide enough value to them to make it worth their time to come on? And eventually I'll get there. I'm confident in myself. I don't mean to sound cocky, but I feel like if we keep working, and not speaking for everyone, if we keep working, we can do anything we want to do. It's just I'm not there yet, so I just got to keep working to get there.
Okay, cool. So something else you have under your belt that we didn't really talk about, but you did talk about your podcasting and radio days, and you're about to launch Jason Edwards' show as a podcast.
Yeah.
Are you planning to launch that like a group of episodes all at once, or are you okay? You are?
Yeah, great question. So I had the radio show, but then I also had a few podcasts that did very well. And what I learned in that process was if somebody's going to listen to one episode and they like it, they're going to want instantly to listen to more if they're available, because maybe they're on a long road trip or they're on a flight or something. Right. So as soon as I launched, I kind of was building a bank of episodes so that when I launch, I can launch 5 or 10 right off the jump, and I'll get a bunch of downloads right when I start. People listen to the first one and then listen to all 10, versus if I only had one, then I'm only getting one download for that person until they think about it maybe a couple months down the road.
Right. Well, that's smart. Smart. And I knew that with YouTube. A lot of people say if you're going to launch a YouTube channel, to launch at least 3 videos
Yeah.
whenever you post.
Mhm.
I didn't really think about that with podcasting and iTunes, but that's really smart.
It really depends on your goal too. Like I'm just using these as distribution channels, so I
Mhm.
don't really have a monetization strategy. I'm not trying to make money at the moment, uh, other than maybe ad revenue down the line. But really, it's just about getting it going. Like I said, I really love doing it, so it's not. I don't have the pressure of like I have to figure out how to sell these people something. You know, I like doing it. Eventually, I'm not saying I'm opposed to that. I encourage people to find ways to have streams of income so they can do what they want to do. But I just don't have that pressure at the moment.
All right, I gotcha. Um, wow, I definitely thought that this was going to be an interesting episode, and yet I feel like I learned, as everybody always says on any of the shows I ever listened to when they interview somebody they already knew and that was a friend. I feel like I learned more about you, even parts of stories that I thought I knew. And yeah, you gave some really good advice. Does anybody in the audience that's watching have any questions for Jason before we sign off? Or we can also loop back to any specific thing that you want to say or pitch for the episode. And then I also have to, I guess I can go ahead and throw this in now that I thought about it. So the studio that I'm shooting in, this back here behind me, is at Randall Veterinary Hospital in Byram, Mississippi. And I have to thank my fellow actor and the owner of this hospital, Michael Randall, for letting me use this space.
Yeah.
So he said I had to give him a shout out on the show. So Mike, you got your shout out on the show.
He's awesome.
All right. So we have a question from Frank Wilson. How do you handle waiting to hear back on an audition?
Great question. Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, I did what I wanted to do and whatever happens, happens. But sometimes there's those projects like you just really love the show and you just can see yourself being a part of it and you really connect to the character that I can't say that I have a good answer of letting it go or, my agent is incredible. And sometimes if she knows that I didn't get it, then she'll let me know early. So I'm not wondering about it. She doesn't always get that information. If, it's usually that somebody else in our agency booked it over me. So that's how I find out. But, at the end of the day, I think about that there's so many projects going on and so many opportunities that there's going to be another one in a day or two anyway. So I just got to move on and really put my energy into the next opportunity. And at every audition, just delivering exactly what I think I should do and leave it on the table after that. Because at the end of the day, if they notice that you've done something creative and that you're a good actor, that they're going to keep calling you back. You just weren't right for that particular part. There's times that I've been able to cast myself in things like that Monsters Anonymous project. I was a producer and I was going to play the Wolfman just because I was a producer and could make that decision. But then my good friend Brent Henry he was the Wolfman. And so I pulled out of that role and said, he has to play it. And he was amazing in it. So I think just knowing that you're not limited to, it's not you losing, it's just that you didn't get that, you're going to be primed for another position. And if I can make one more point on it, oftentimes when I didn't get something I thought I really wanted, something even more incredible came a little bit later on the same show or the same project. So.
Awesome. That was a very thorough answer. And you also covered a few other things in there. So I think actor jealousy is something that you found a way to cover without really focusing on it or even saying,
well, I can't say
word.
that, we're always going to have that little sting, like you wanted something and one of your friends, especially because I have some really talented friends, especially going to so many classes, you see people's work and you respect them. But a lot of times you're going to go up, especially like a white male in their 30s is going to go up against a lot of other people because it's a pretty broad thing, and sometimes my really good best friends get jobs that I really wanted. And there's a little sting, but then you just got to really be thankful for the opportunity and be happy for them because there's going to be a time that you get something over them. So it's a balance of that.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I was so as an actor personally, I really try to push to continue my education. Of course, one, I want to find new tricks and tips that I can personally use, and then two, part of why I dove into starting a weekly class was so that it motivated me to always be finding new information to share with my students.
Hmm.
And so yesterday I was watching a video, and it was a commercial auditioning coach. She was talking about um, really that balance of, one, not getting angry because that doesn't help you, and two, not totally forgetting about it because that also doesn't help you. I think a lot of people say it's similarly, like every time you have a victory, it doesn't really help, but the losses can help, and it's because we can analyze what we did wrong or did right. And she mentioned thinking about it in a way of not what you did right necessarily, but what you liked of what you did and what you wish you could change. Um, and that in and of itself, I think, is a brilliant thing. That when we don't book something, sometimes taking a second to reflect and say, when I walked in the room, I really wasn't as charismatic as I could have been, or when this threw me off, and I know it threw me off, and really the only preparation I have is to continue acting. Because I think there's sometimes that it's not as cut and dry. It's not like you can analyze everything that happened. You feel like you did great on your audition. You know exactly what you did. You did everything you wanted to do, and then you just don't book the part. And I think those can be really tough too. I think it's almost better those times when I walk out and I'm like, well, I said half the words wrong, and I, just totally messed up. Or I told a really awkward story when the casting director told me to tell him, how was your day today? I told this ridiculous. I've done that one before, and maybe that's why I didn't book the part, because it was kind of weird. But and so I look back on that, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So yeah, I think
you can't really beat yourself up on. I mean, I do recommend practicing your banter, so to speak, just so you have a little bit of confidence walking in. I also really recommend when you're walking into the room, if you have some free time, or like in the hallway, there's a couple little cubby holes that I found in each of the buildings that I frequent for auditions that I'll go and practice the entire thing, like eye lines, where the camera is going to be. Now I know a majority of the time where each casting director sits, like kind of how their room is set up. So I'll visualize that too, like where the camera's going to be, where they're going to sit, where my eyes are going to be. I practice slating and just the whole process. So I feel like I've already done it before I walk in there. And that's been helpful to me, as well as like practicing, like I said, your banter, a little bit of a story, like what you did today, a little funny quip or something, just so you have that ready. I'm not saying be unnatural, but just so you're confident that you're not going to get thrown off. Sometimes you're still going to be, as has been times I've totally blanked on a 1-line or 2-line thing. Just, it happens, but not beat yourself up too much about it.
Yeah, I think that's sound advice. I can definitely be really bad about beating myself up internally, not physically. But so one comment we just got, and I think you probably have stayed with the show from the very start, Daniel, is from our friend and fellow actor, Daniel Williamson. And his statement was that both of us have beat him out for a role. And then he laughed at himself about it, or at the situation, I guess. I don't know, like, that's part of the game. I feel like I should apologize, but I know it's more of like, I'm sorry that happens to any of us. The funny thing is, the role that Jason got on Sun Records, so that's where you were kind of the redneck guy running up to the house, right? If I had booked the other part, I would have been your brother running up with you.
That would have been awesome.
And I watched it and I was like, I'm so happy for him, and I'm so upset that I didn't book that other character so that we could have been in that together.
There'll be more opportunities. That guy was great too. But yeah, it's always fun. Like there's times where there's a couple of cops in a room or something that I'm reading with friends, and I'm hoping that we get it. And I've had that happen a couple of times, but yeah, that would have been fun. And Daniel's awesome, so that guy doesn't have to worry. He's going to be booking.
Yeah, Daniel, I think actually jumping back to what Jason said earlier, when he said that we all need to be shooting stuff and actually making some of the projects that we've talked about, Daniel and like all three of us, we should meet up and we should shoot something. I really feel like all we've got to do is just pick a weekend at some point in the future, and just say, all right, we're going to be in New Orleans. We have this camera and this mic. Somebody come up with the script that we're going to shoot.
Yeah. Or just not have a script and we'll just figure it out.
That can be dangerous.
Yeah.
See, Daniel's on board. Comments, anybody watching the comments, Daniel's on board. Anybody else with a question? Daniel, do you have a question? Since you are directly commenting as I talk.
I want to kind of just tie up some things that I felt I wanted to talk about on the show, and it kind of popped in my head. But really, again, just driving home that point of making it happen for yourself. Like I can't say how many people have approached me about how to get into the industry. And, I'm nobody right now. I'm working my way up, but damn it, I've been working so hard. I've put in probably 30,000 miles on my car, just driving to classes and going crazy with that and helping. I think really what I want to drive home is finding how you can provide value to other people. Like I'm always trying to figure out a way without expecting anything in return to provide just a little glimmer of value to somebody, whether it be designing some kind of image to promote them on a show, or working on their film project, or helping them tape an audition, whatever it is, just building this community of friends that we all support each other genuinely, like not expecting something from somebody, because there are a lot of takers in our industry too, people that just take, but don't help back. So I think that's helped me a lot, kind of feel more comfortable and also climb a little bit higher, is just supporting others and lifting other people up, and they're pulling me up with them. So I think that's something I want to drive home. Don't just be a taker, and don't be lazy. If you really want it, go make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's part of why I decided to finally jump in and start the show. As you can see, this side, there we go. Right here above my head, it actually says BeLive.tv, which is an app that, or a website that Jason told me about whenever I talked about trying to get a show started, and I looked at his insane studio setup, and I was just said, I don't have any money right now. I always seem to find ways to do stuff with a lot less money than other people. And Jason was like, hey, do this thing and it'll probably be awesome. And then of course I'm in Jackson, so much fewer, there's a lot fewer actors of the A-list caliber or big projects or writers, directors, acting classes, and other going on here. There definitely are a lot of great artists and musicians and stuff that come through Jackson. And I do hope to interview those type of entertainers to get some advice from them about anything that I can tease out and figure out of their process. But odds are, for as long as I'm stuck in Jackson, my show is probably gonna be formatted this way. And I'm grateful for a product like BeLive. If you need it, check it out. They didn't ask me to give a shout out, but they let us use this for free, so I might as well.
Yeah, there's so many ways that you can kind of hack around and make it work. And like I said, just starting, like my first few shows I just did on an iPhone, and I just, audio was bad and I had glitches and all kinds of things, but then you work it out, and this is a work in progress too. Eventually I'd like to build it into like a real nice studio, and I'm thankful for what I have. But yeah, you can't get better if you don't start. So
yeah, I think that's awesome advice. Well, I think we need to wrap it up here. We're close to like an hour of being on live, and thanks to anybody, Frank and Daniel and Anna and Raymond are the people that commented. Thank you all for commenting. Please share this live feed out to other people. And I'm hoping to grow Call to Acting in this live show, just definitely on a weekly basis. If I can get enough guests, even quicker than that. And hopefully it can be a platform where we can learn to be better actors together and learn about branding, networking, and just, living this life of being an artist and an actor. So thank you for being on the show, Jason. Anything you want to say?
No, just thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to seeing what other guests you have, and really just congratulations to you for taking action, man, because it's like a lot of people don't. So I'm happy for you and can't wait to see what else you do.
All right. Well, thanks, Jason, and thanks for being on the show again. This has been awesome. I had a great conversation with you, and I'm going to hit that end broadcast button. So please don't forget to like this. Continue to comment below. I'll check back with the comments of the video, and I'm sure Jason will as well. Any of the things Jason mentioned, either you can search them on Google yourself, or I'll be doing like a blog post on the calltoacting.com page about this episode. And there we go. All right. See you guys.
Thank you.